Hey there, CB radio friends. Okay, here's a crudely drawn setup of how I have my, or a sketch of how I have my radio set up here. Okay, let's start here with the antenna. There's your antenna, there's your ground plane, there's your pole. Here's an 8-foot ground rod. You have ground from right here to the antenna pole to the ground rod. That grounds your antenna. If we go over here, I have another 8-foot ground rod. This one is for the chassis ground for all of my equipment in my shack. So I'll show you how I've got this. Now here's your 120 AC outlet. I'm running this to power the 150 amp power supply and the 25 amp power supply. So both of these are plugged into a power strip, which then runs into here. So you have your hot, your neutral, and your ground. And I would think this ground would ground everything sufficiently, but apparently because it's so long and it runs through the whole distance of your house, it can pick up stray RF and act as an antenna and all kinds of stuff. So what you want to do is you want to run a separate ground rod for your equipment, and you want to chassis ground it. And when I say chassis ground it, I don't mean the negative wire coming off. I mean the actual case of it. If it has a ground lug, use it. If not, go on to one of the metal screws that hold the case on or whatnot. So I know this is kind of crude. These here that aren't colored, this is just showing the coax basically. So here you have my two radios, which are right here. And it's just showing, here's one coax, here's the other coax. They go into the switcher, which is right back there. From the switcher, it comes out, one wire, goes to the amplifier, which is right here. Then your coax is going to come out of the amplifier, go to the meter, which is right here. And then it's going to come out of the meter and it's going to go to the antenna, which is outside. And as far as your chassis ground, the amplifier chassis grounded, both of the power supplies are chassis grounded, the meter, the switcher, and both radios. And I've run a single wire off of each of those to a ground lug. So nowhere did I didn't like jump these or anything else. They're all its own separate wire until they get to this point to a ground lug, and then from there one wire runs outside to the 8-foot ground rod. So this helps to get rid of your any type of interference issues you may have. And it's also, properly grounded. And the reason we want our antenna grounded, it's going to help with the bleed over because it's going to be properly grounded. But also as the wind blows over a metal antenna, you can read this online, it can build up a static charge. So it's going to take it right to ground and dissipate it. So this is how I did mine. Whether it's technically correct or not, someone may argue and they may have a point. I don't know. This is how I did it. And before I did all this, I had a lot of interference. Now you can see where my level is right here. Oops. You just have the basic white noise, but you see how low the sitting at 1S unit, that's it. Before it could have been way up there, 3 or 4, sometimes 5. So that really helped with all that. Okay, so now on to this. So here's my two radios right here. The HR 2510 and the 959. So they both run to the switcher right there. So I can switch to either one, whichever one I want to use. And from the switcher, runs down here to the amplifier. From the amplifier, runs up here to the meter. From the meter, runs outside to the antenna. So that's that. Show you a couple other things I've done here. This meter here measures the charge in the Optima deep cycle battery I have. Right now the power supply's on. I have it set to 14.2 volts. If I turn the power, I'm going to leave the power supply on, but I have a switch to cut the battery out of the loop. So if I turn that off, there you go. And that'll eventually come to a rest right about 12.8 volts, which is a fully charged battery. It'll take a while to get down there, but it will. So that monitors that separately. If I kick the power supply back on, it takes it right back up. I'll show you this. Okay, so here's a power supply. Would help if I had a little light, but I don't. So there's my rusty built KW power supply, 150 amp. And then back there, let me get a light, stand by. Okay, so we're back. I got my trusty Harbor Freight Braun LED light there. Okay, so here's my Optima Blue Top gel cell deep cycle battery. Here's my 150 amp power supply. And there's my 25 amp power supply. These are both switchers. This is a 150 amp switcher, and that is a 25 amp Meanwell switcher. They're both super clean, filtered. They don't produce any stray RF nonsense. And if you look here, the way I have this set up, here's the power leads for the amplifier. Here's the 2 leads for the battery, and I put a switch in line. So flip it off, or I can flip it on. As you can see, I can adjust the voltage there. That's 14.0, it's 14.2. It's a variable. So the reason I went ahead and threw the battery in here, I really don't need the battery in there with this amp. Now if I get long-winded and start yapping, you know, the power supply will eventually start warming up, but it handles it just fine because that doesn't draw 150 amps. But the battery acts as a buffer. You know, it's a storage. It's storage of electricity is what it is. So it acts as a buffer, so the power supply doesn't have to work as hard. The power supply charges it, and it's just going to make everything work a lot easier. Going to deliver the amperage that it needs and make things run cooler. So eventually, I would either need a larger power supply or a battery, and this system here is going to work great, because I do plan on getting a larger amplifier. And when that's in line, this system's going to work perfect. So yeah, that's how this system's set up. And here's my external KLH speakers. I have one for each radio, so they're independent. That way they have a good sound. And yeah. That's how everything's set up. Here, let's go ahead and show you some watts real quick. Let's turn this power down to 14.2. I don't like to volt things. There we go. We'll go ahead and use the Galaxy 99. Or not 99, 959, excuse me. We got the switcher set to the 959. And we'll see where I run the mic gain. It's not all the way open. I have it about 3/4 of the way. And we have it set to the 3000 watt scale. Here, let's do this. The amp's off. Put it on the 30 watt scale. There we go. There's a 30 watt scale. Bottom scale. So we have about a 1 3/4, maybe a 1 7/8. That's the dead key going into the amp. Now we'll turn the amp on. Turn the delay on. So basically what this does right now is it's a straight 4-pill. This radio is driving the amp as a straight 4-pill. So you know what, before I do that, let's go back up here and go to the 30 watt scale and I'll show you what the radio's doing. Audio. Audio. 1 1 1 1 1 1. Hello. Audio. That's about 15, 16 peak watts right there. I did turn the radio up, but you know, I didn't go crazy on it. Now, if I open the mic gain up, we probably will see some more. Audio. Audio. Yeah, a tiny bit more. Let's turn that mic gain back where it was though. There we go. Now we'll go on the 3000 watt scale, turn the amplifier on, and we'll turn it on in the 4-pill position. So you have 15 watts driving in, so a 4-pill. 3000 watt scale. Audio. Audio. That's about 425, 430 peak watts. Now we'll turn that off. And now it's a one Toshiba 2290 driving 4 Toshiba 2879s. Still at the same 15 watts of drive from the radio. Now we have a 100 watt dead key. Audio. Audio. 1 1 1 1 1 1 audio. So that's right about 890, 900 watts peak. And that's running that mic gain there. Let's go ahead and open the mic gain up a little bit. See what we can get there. Audio. Really doesn't do a whole lot. This is really the peak spot right there. So yeah, that's what my little setup's doing. So here in the future I'll be hooking up a larger amp, either a 2x6 or a 2x8, and we'll see what it does from there. Alright, thanks for watching, man. Hope you enjoyed it and hope the grounding helped someone out. And let me know if you have any comments or questions or anything. Thanks, guys.